Dusty Sonnenberg, Field Leader. We are on the Ohio Field Leader Roadshow over in Hardin County today at Rodabaugh Farms. And joining me, the Rodabaughs, Chris, we want to talk a little bit about first off, the pond that's in the background. You guys have really been involved in a lot of different conservation and environmental type practices over the year. I guess this is probably one of the older ones on the farm. Talk about this and then some of the other practices you guys have implemented through the different programs with soil and water and NRCS.
Well, this would probably been the first conservation project that I can remember anyway. It had been back in the 60s, and at that time, if you put a waterway in, they helped you pay the waterway. They would also dig you a pond to help filter the water. Basically, it was maybe the early wetland projects. And if you look just the other side of that pond, it carries a lot of water all out of Hardin County up through Hancock County into Eagle Creek, Blanchard River into Lake Erie. So consequently, there is no water comes out of this other than through the small drain, but there's very little water even comes into it now because of the old waterway it's there, plus all the tree plantings, the no-till, and the cover crops around it.
Well, talk about that a little bit. You guys have also, in addition to the ponds, you've put in wetlands, you've planted trees, you've adopted cover crops and a lot of no-till. Just take us through the progression with that, maybe some of the different programs you participated in, and then just doing some of it on your own now.
I guess because some of the land we had that didn't seem real productive and maybe for the benefit of farming it versus putting it into some kind of conservation program, we signed up for some conservation programs, and one of the early ones behind you there is a tree planting we put in about 20 years ago. That was probably one of our first big ones. We'd put waterways in and some buffer strips, quail buffers, and that kind of thing. But that was probably the first big project. Well, we put 8,500 trees, something like that. Put a few ashes in there too, which that didn't turn out so good. But the oak trees and the other trees took over to where you don't even notice the ones that didn't make it. But there used to be a lot of water come down through here. You can see out here we've got rye planted in the corn stalks out here, so there should be hardly any water, if any, come off of that. We have the tree planting there. At the upper end of the waterway is corn stalks with rye planted in it, plus a buffer strip along there. So basically there's just hardly any runoff comes off that. So, and then along with that, we've, if you go on back, further back here, we've put in some wetlands, and to begin with, that was to collect some of the water coming off the highway when they put new Highway 30 in. And some of that was just running out through the field, so we were able to put in a program and get a wetland put in to kind of stop that flow and settle it out a little bit.
Now, once the trees have been planted, the wetlands established, as far as maintenance goes, how much is involved with that?
You know, you can do about as much as you want to. They don't want you to make it like a state park type deal, you know, and all that, but we try to keep some trails through the wooded area. We will mow for a few years, sometimes all around each tree even, at least keep down between, keep all the briars and the brush. You got all kinds of native trees coming up. So we do some of that. With the wetlands, there's not a whole lot we do. We did put some drains in them. We had a lot of trouble with muskrats, with it, keep leaving them full, so we'll drain them down, and we do a little bit of that, keeping them mowed around them, and other than that, there's not a lot that has to be done.
As far as the rest of the farm goes, maybe some of the crops you raise and the conservation practices you guys have in general production.
We have corn and beans, twice as many beans as we do corn, I guess, on 1,200 acres. We've got waterways every place that we think needs them. Some of them we didn't actually go into a program, put official waterways in, but we've worked them ourselves, try to keep a cover crop going or something growing in that all the time, which seems to work pretty good on some of them. We've done, like I said, we've done some what they call quail buffers. I'm not sure in this area why they call them quail buffers, because we haven't seen a quail around here in years, but it has been very beneficial, I think, for wildlife. Probably the deer like them as much as anything. But so that's a few of the things. Waterways and tree plantings was our big ones to start out with.
Again, this is the Ohio Field Leader Roadshow. We are in Hardin County at Rodabaugh Farms.